Finally, we have an audio interface in the smaller format that checks almost all the boxes. We're talking onboard recording, mute functionality, and onboard processing. Although there are a few things missing the mark, but we're going to talk about that later. The PodTrak P2 costs just $99.99 US. It's a 2-in, 2-out, 24-bit 48 kilohertz audio interface that allows you to record up to 4 tracks to the micro SDHC card while streaming. The micro SDHC card can be up to 1 terabyte. I'll have a list of compatible cards in the description down below. And with that onboard recording, you also get a unique save feature that I'm going to talk about just a little bit later. You can power the device via USB or by using 4 AA batteries. Now the battery ratings are as follows. Alkaline batteries, 3.5 hours. NiMH batteries, 5 hours. And lithium batteries, about 10 hours. But wait, there's more. The P2 also comes with a companion software editor. It's compatible for both Windows and Mac, and it allows you to do things like see the SD card usage, change from multi-track to stereo or vice versa, gives you a switch to set the mix minus, displays date and time, lets you choose what battery type you're going to use, offers you a 10-hour auto off power feature, allows you to format the SD card or reset all settings. Plus, it gives device version and help. Plus, there's also some compatibility lists that I'll put in the description down below, like which microphones it works with, which audio recording software it works with, which Android devices it'll work with, and stuff like that. So check that out. Link in the description. Let's get into the nuts and bolts of this device. We'll start with the build quality. I've been using the device the entire time. So this entire recording is being done with the Zoom PodTrak P2 via my Rode PodMic USB. First thing, the elephant in the room, for $99.99, the build quality is extremely lightweight. The knobs have about as much give as you would expect, but the buttons have a satisfying press, and the mute functionality is extremely well done. So there's no audible click when you press the mute button, which is a huge thumbs up. I do have some questions about the device's layout, but I'll get to that in just a second. Speaking of the layout, let's go around the device just to get acquainted with how it's set up. On the top of the device, we have the power button, the record button, a play pause button, a mute button 1, tone, noise reduction, compression, a mute button 2, 2 6-bar gain meters, which work very well, are extremely responsive, 2 microphone volume knobs, and 1 headphone knob. On the bottom of the device, we have the battery port, and on the battery panel, we have some shortcut button presses that'll help you format the SD card, reset the device, and so on, which can be very helpful. On the back of the device, we have 2 USB ports. They are USB-C. One is for power, the other is for connecting to a cell phone or PC to use as an audio interface. And reminder, that does have mix minus. You have to get it turned on in the settings, but it does have mix minus. On the front of the device, we have 2 1/8-inch headphone jacks. And on each side of the device, you have a USB-A port that's used for connecting microphones. And on the right side, you have also the micro SD card slot. Zoom did make a curious statement about USB microphone compatibility, but I'll get to that in the cons section. The elephant in the room has to be the choice for them to go with USB microphones instead of XLR microphones. I have 2 theories on this, and I'd like to hear what you think about these theories. They also have a bunch of handheld recorders that you can use as audio interfaces that are XLR microphone capable. So since they already offer that, it wouldn't really make that much sense to offer it in this cheaper unit, because you might stray towards this unit instead of another one. Or I have a totally different theory, which is they're going to refresh the PodTrak P4. And that way, there'd be a clear distinction between the PodTrak P2 and the PodTrak P4. Updated version, anyway. However, as time goes on, I'm sure things will get much more clear. I'm not knocking the use of USB. Maybe it's cheaper to use USB ports instead of XLR ports. I'm not sure about that, but I did find it just a little curious. Up until this point, you've been just simply hearing the natural sound of the PodTrak P2 with the combination of the Rode PodMic USB. But now I'm going to start using some of the buttons on the front of the device so we can see what that sounds like. First up, let's use the AI noise reduction. It's a different day, and I wanted to redo the noise test because I didn't have enough noise in the background, so you weren't truly able to hear what the AI noise reduction button was able to do. So let's test it out. I'll be quiet for a minute. You can hear I got the gaming PC on, and it's very noisy. Lots of fans in it running. All right, so now that you kind of have a baseline for the background noise, now I'm going to hit this AI noise reduction, and I'll be quiet. So that is what the AI noise reduction does. I can't really tell too much with these in-ear monitors in. I will be able to tell obviously a lot more when I'm in editing. I've already tested the mute functionality, but I'll do it again just so you can hear that there's no click. And then back on. So they did an excellent job of implementing the mute functionality. So if we want to balance the audio a little bit as far as keeping the high inflections kind of tamed down and then the low speech kind of brought up, we're going to use the compressor button. So I'm going to press that right now. Okay, and then the noise drastically increased in the headphones because the volume ramped up a lot. So it is definitely messing with the audio a lot here. I don't really care for it, to be honest with you. So I'm going to turn that back off. And then the noise in my headphones goes down exponentially when I turn it off. So it is trying to bring the low signals up and keep the higher signals down. So I think you just set your microphone gain to the right spot and you'll be fine. And when it comes to the tone button, Zoom says use that tone button to get the perfect podcast sound. So that's de-essing and EQing. So let's press it right now. All right, now I have engaged the tone button. Does it sound much smoother, much better now that I have that turned on? I did hear a change when I clicked it on in the in-ear monitors, but I won't be able to truly gauge what it's doing until I go back with the quality headphones on. Now I'm going to turn the tone button off. Now the tone button is turned off. How much did that change the sound in your opinion? I'll be curious to hear what you think in the comments. Let's get to it. Pros and cons and other notes. On the pros front, let's be real. $99.99 for a device with this much functionality, even though it is built a little lighter than you might anticipate. That's a phenomenal price point. $100, you just can't beat it. Coming in at this low of a price and still offering onboard recording, to me, is another huge pro. Plus, with the onboard recording, I can press the pause button and then the play button to restart, to pause and then restart recording. That too is well thought out. Another pro is offering 2 mute buttons, one for each microphone. I would have liked to seen a mute button for the audio interface mode. So if there were 2 of us in a studio recording and we wanted to mute the person on the audio interface, that would be cool too. Obviously, another pro is that it's built for 2 users. So I really am impressed that Zoom was able to pull that off. Another pro is, since you can put batteries in it, it opens up the portability to be able to take it wherever you'd like. Another pro is that you do get 2 headphone jacks. We'll circle back around to that. Another pro is obviously the onboard DSP. So being able to add the compression, even though I didn't like it, the tone, I did think that sounded pretty decent. And the AI noise reduction, your usage may vary on that. Another pro is, even though it's not 32-bit, it is 24-bit, 48 kilohertz. So updated from the PodTrak P4, which was just 16-bit. Another pro is the built-in mix minus and having the ability to shut that on and off in the software. Another pro, which I alluded to earlier, is the recording functionality where it automatically saves your recording every 10 seconds. So let's say I'm using it USB powered, have a blackout or a brownout, and I don't really have to worry about losing that entire audio file. And honestly, this is the reason I always recommend people record with stuff that has onboard recording, because if you have a blackout or brownout and you're using your audio editing software to record, you could be in a world of hurt if you lose an interview. And the last pro I have is the P2 companion editor software, which allows you to do a lot of different settings and such. So I think that is another thing that is really well done by Zoom, because it's lightweight. Plus, they give you the button shortcuts on the back of the device to accomplish a lot of things that you could do in the software. Not everything, but it seems like most things. On the cons front, obviously the build quality, being this lightweight plastic, 226 grams, it is super duper lightweight. Time will tell what the durability is actually like. Another con is while you do get 2 1/8-inch headphone jacks out, you only get one knob. So whoever you're recording with, I hope they have the exact same hearing as you do, because you can't separate the volumes. It'd have been cool if there was a way to press the headphone knob down like a button and separate the audio, but I've tried all sorts of different things, and so far I haven't figured out any way to separately adjust the headphone outputs. Another con is a con I almost always have with Zoom devices. While they are super intelligent engineers at Zoom, their aesthetics are not always the best. The device just could be much, much sleeker if they took those USB-A ports and put them on the back. You could put them on the bottom row or what have you, but just have all the cables on the back cascading out over the desk, and then your headphone cables in the front coming forward. It would be a much cleaner setup, but I've noticed this throughout Zoom devices over the years. The way they design stuff sometimes is a bit puzzling. Another con, and what would have set this device over the top, is if they would have given me just a few sound pads like the PodTrak P2 has. Another con, and it's not a huge deal, but it would have really set the device off as well, is if it had the mounting port on the back like the handy recorders have. That would have been awesome to be able to set this up on just like a little cheap stand on the desk. And then under things to take note of, Zoom, in their own words, says that this interface works with 99% of USB microphones. While they have a small short list that I've linked to in the description, what's the 1% that don't work with this unit? What are we looking for, I should say? In my opinion, it just seems more like Zoom covering their butt in case the unit doesn't work with a certain USB microphone, which is fine. And then obviously another note is the USB ports instead of XLR ports. You're still going to see people be confused about that. Not anybody in this audience per se, but just like normies that are out there shopping on Amazon, they might buy the wrong microphone pairing with this unit, even though it clearly states that it's USB. Now, on Amazon, under a certain listing that I saved for purchase, it says this is USB 3, but in Zoom's own notes, it says USB 2. So just something to keep in mind. Overall, the PodTrak P2 is almost exactly what I've been clamoring for years. While Rode dominates the larger format audio interfaces, I've been begging companies to go to the smaller format and get into that wheelhouse. Why is it taking a company so long to do this? I have no idea. Instead of going head to head with Rode, I thought somebody like Tascam or even Zoom would get into this wheelhouse here of 1 or 2 inputs and really potentially can make some hay there. I'm super excited that it's under $100 and it has onboard recording and mute functionality and onboard DSP. Come on. There's a lot to like about the P2. More importantly, what do you think about the PodTrak P2? Is this thing going to deliver for you, or are you going to skip it? Let me know in the comments on this video. Please subscribe to the channel. And as always, thank you.